A lifetime of being a doormat left him miserable, but now he's taking back control and getting a second chance at life. Hey guys, welcome back to Alpha Talk. So, for today, I'm going to go over an email that was sent from a subscriber. And this is all about a guy who's in the classic, stereotypical, miserable marriage. He's in his early 50s, he's been married for like 20 years. And it's definitely along the lines of the worst-case scenario about the things I worry about, what can happen, and how things can go if you get yourself in this situation, get married, and especially get married to the wrong woman and not act like a man and stand up for yourself. Okay? And while it's not the worst-case scenario, it's definitely in the realm of that, okay? And this guy, he shares his story. He tells you, step by step, pretty much how things got down that path. All right? The guy's definitely humble, and he admits where he screwed up, which I respect. And he's writing this basically to warn a lot of you guys that you don't make the same mistakes he did, okay? He's also writing it, in my opinion, he didn't ask for my help, but I'm assuming he's writing this to ask some advice, to help his situation now, what he can do at this point in his life, which I will most certainly get into at the end of the video here. And one thing you're going to see, guys, which is really important, is early on he's going to describe his family life growing up when he was a kid. And basically, his mom was a dominant woman and ran the house, and his sister was dominant as well, while his father was obviously weak and not very present. And eventually, they got divorced, and so he grew up without a strong male role model. And I've said countless times in the videos, it's so important for a young man, whether he's a boy or a teenager, to have that strong, masculine guy there to guide him. Ideally, it's the father, but if not the father, an uncle, a grandfather, something like that. Because in a situation with a single mom, or simply a domineering mother and a weak father figure, the boy is going to grow up being more feminine. Because also, he's not just getting that at home, but also at school, because most teachers are women, right? And in today's environment, it's even worse than it was when this guy was a young guy growing up, because he's like, I'm guessing 10 years older than me, so obviously, he was born in the late 60s. So anyhow, guys, I'm going to go into the story here, and I'm going to point these things out along the way. And it's definitely a really good, important story to show you about a lot of things I talk about, so you don't end up in a situation like this guy. So it starts off, hi, I apologize, I'm not sure what your name is, as I do not remember you sharing it through all your videos I have watched. Just call me Alpha Talk, bro. I'm writing you to serve as a warning to all the young men out there so they do not end up like me. I'm in my early 50s. I'm in the top 10% of wage earners, and one would think I would have a nice life. But alas, I am miserable. I have been in a mediocre marriage for over 20 years. I find myself at the bottom of the totem pole of the family, as all my hard work in getting a top-notch education, including a PhD, and earning a nice salary, all goes to making the dreams of my wife and my children come true, leaving me nothing. Well, bro, at the end of the day, that's on you. I don't mean to be harsh, and I know you are aware of this, but at the end of the day, it's on you, man. I mean, we're all masters of our own destiny, and we make choices, okay? And obviously, you've made bad choices, but that doesn't mean the rest of your life has to be that way, which I will get back to at the end of the story here. But you are being the nice guy and trying to please your wife and the girls. You know, obviously, he's going to mention that he has 2 girls, so he's been living in a hen house for all these years. So, that can happen. How did I end up like this? Whatever term is popular for weak, nice guys, beta or simp, applies to me. He owns up to it. I respect that. I try to console myself with the knowledge the MGTOW movement was non-existent when I was a young man. I grew up in a home with a dominant mother and a younger sister. My father was emotionally distant. I am shy and introspective, and on top of that, I am short. Well, that doesn't mean anything. I've known some guys that literally weren't much taller than Christmas elves, and these guys were ball busters. These guys were tough alpha males. So it's all about attitude, man. It's all about attitude and self-worth, which you can learn even in your early 50s at this point in your life, which I'll get into. To make things worse, my parents divorced when I was entering my teenage years, so I had no mentor of what it means to be a man and how to have a healthy relationship with women. The end result is I never had a girlfriend in high school, college, and graduate school. I would add any lessons I might have learned from observing my male friends in college were the wrong lessons. They had game and would hook up with co-eds and in hump and dump events. So, I'm going to go back to what he's talking about, having no strong male presence in his life. No, I've mentioned this before in other videos, and a lot of times there are people, not just women, but men. They get really pissed off when I say something like this. where I make the point that young boys need a strong masculine presence in their life to set an example. Now, let me make this clear, so people don't start flying off the handle and freaking out in the comments section, because I'm not in the mood for that. It doesn't mean a single mom or a mother can't raise a boy, can't provide for the boy, care for him, love him, all that. Of course, she can, well, the right ones. And it doesn't mean that she can't raise him to be a decent human being, okay? What I'm saying is, she is not a man and doesn't know what it means to be what it's like for a boy growing up as a future man, and those things that we go through, and all that. She doesn't get that, okay? She can only go so far. That's why a boy needs a father. He needs a masculine presence. He needs the right. He can have a father. But if he's a weak father, that's not going to do any good. But he needs a strong, masculine presence to teach him to be strong, to be a leader, to stand up for himself, to not tolerate any BS from anybody, things like that. To grow into a strong man that his future wife, if he does get married, will respect and not walk all over him. And he can be a good role model to his son, and he can show his daughters, if he has daughters, the type of man they want to ending up with, right? Not feminized men. But the problem is that you got so many men out there that have been feminized, and because that's what, thanks to the you-know-what movement, has had an influence on the media, movies, television, government, you name it, to mold boys to be in touch with their feminine side. So what? This is what you get nowadays. It's obviously way worse now than it was when he was growing up. And so, these feminized guys, is it any wonder they end up in relationships where the woman is ball-busting and domineering and runs the show, and the guy's miserable, okay? And they don't know any better to stand up for themselves because they didn't have an example to stand up for themselves. Now, I also get guys that get fired up because they say, my mom was a single mom and I'm a strong man. I was in the military, I was a cop and all that. Yes, and probably, maybe the father wasn't there, but the guys had a strong male presence. Uncle, grandfather, teacher, who the hell knows? Coach in football, basketball, sports, whatever, or simply they're a unique case. But most of the time, guys don't end up that way because they don't have that strong male presence that's so important. And this guy had it lacking, so that wasn't his fault, okay? But when you reach adulthood, it is your own responsibility, and how your life goes is on you, okay? So it's so important, guys, and this is why those of you who are watching, if you're fathers or grandfathers or uncles, you got to set that strong masculine presence for the younger boys in your life. Because so many don't have that now, okay? Very important, I want to make that clear. Anyhow, so yeah, he had a bad role model, didn't trust his feelings growing up, and he didn't have any relationships or girlfriends up, obviously. Through the prime years of high school, college, and all that. Continuing on, so I'm almost 30 years old, alone, with no experience, and I meet my future wife at a singles event at church. She was a few years older than me and wanted to get married and start a family. Well, that should have been a red flag. I did not trust my feelings, as I was afraid of being alone again. I did not know about the true nature of women. Well, that's another problem this guy had. He was afraid of being alone. Guys, you have to learn to be totally cool and comfortable being on your own. If you don't get to that point in your life, it's a strong possibility you're going to allow people in your life that are mediocre or lousy, friends, people that you have relationships with, all that, okay? If you are comfortable being on your own, and it doesn't make a difference to you, you want people in your life, but you can function just fine without them, you're not going to settle for less. You're going to have good quality friends where there's no drama, there's no backstabbing, there's no BS. You're going to have a good relationship with women that you date, okay? You're not going to tolerate ones that stir up a lot of drama and cheat on you and lie and all that drama because, contrary to popular belief, not all women are the walking devils, okay? But there are a lot nowadays, absolutely. You know all the stories I do, but there are some ones that are there, still have some old-fashioned values and are decent human beings. But you got to work hard to find them. It goes on, I didn't trust my feelings. I was afraid of being alone. You always trust your feelings, guys. Your gut is your truth. Listen to your gut, always. She ended up getting pregnant, so I thought I would do the honorable thing and we got married. How many guys fall into that trap, wanting to do the honorable thing? And that's nice. You obviously want to, obviously do the right thing, but it wasn't the right thing for you, and look what happened. I would not want my future child being raised by a single mother who did not have the financial resources to support a family. You didn't have to marry her. She could have had the kid, and you would, obviously, have a court-approved whatever child support it was. You could support the child. But obviously you wanted the child to have a father, so I respect him because, you're right about that. During the period before the marriage, her true nature came out. She used to, she is, to use the modern slang term, a Karen. She believes that she is the center of the universe. She is like a black hole, and anything that enters her orbit will be stretched and deformed beyond recognition. That's pretty funny. I find myself accepting my fate and trying to make the best of it. No. Like what they say in the Terminator movies, there's no fate but what you make, okay? I know it's a movie, or movies, but it's really true. You make your own destiny. Sure, there are things in life that are going to come in and get in the way of your plans. There's going to be bumps along the road, if you will, but you adapt, and you keep on that path, okay? So there's no accepting your fate, okay? I think what you should have done back then, and again, obviously, you can look back because you were 30 years old or in your early 30s. If your gut told you, and this is a lesson for any guys who are watching this, that she's obviously troubled, a mess, but she's pregnant, you can provide for the baby, okay? Just make sure that, obviously, it's in writing, and you get a lawyer, and you work it out that basically there's a set amount in writing, approved by the court or whoever worked out with the lawyers, whatever, that you pay X amount per month to provide. And you'd be there for that child. Doesn't mean you got to marry some crazy harpy and be miserable the rest of your life. Here I am over 20 years later, just trying to make it through another day. I have moments of absolute despair thinking about the future. My wife and I have not engaged in one intelligent conversation. I am her punching bag when she is upset. Besides providing financially, I do most of the chores inside and outside the house. So, you tell me that you are the breadwinner, you make a living, you pay all the bills, and you do all the chores inside and outside the house. Please tell me that she has a job too. What the hell is she doing? Just sitting on her ass all day, watching daytime TV while you're doing the chores? Or are you doing all the chores inside and outside the house so you can avoid her? Either way, that's a bad situation. And being her punching bag? No, you should not be her punching bag. But guys, can you see here? Because he was raised by a dominant mother and had a dominant sister, and he didn't have the role model to be a man. He pretty much sounds like probably married a woman similar to his mother, domineering, ball-busting, her way or the highway. See, this is exactly why you need a strong male role model. And the old thing about a lot of guys end up marrying women just like their mother, or women marrying guys like their father. Once again, this is no doubt proven true. What is the reward for this? My oldest daughter has been struggling with mental health issues for years. My younger daughter is also mentally fragile. The family finances are in a precarious state as I purchase too much house to please my wife and spend tens of thousands of dollars on renovations. It's amazing how many guys are in marriages and they do really well financially, but they're in so much debt because a lot of times the women want to be in the bigger house and have all the bells and whistles and a fancy car to obviously keep up with the Joneses and keep up certain appearances, okay? I'm saying all women are like that, but a lot are. Meanwhile, you could have a guy on his own, and he could just do okay financially, but he's not in debt, and he's doing pretty well because he doesn't need all these things to show off. But a lot of women are like this, and it's a stereotype. That's dead on. And with the daughters, I'm sorry to hear that, but it's probably a possibility the daughters are unhappy and having issues is because they grew up in a household where mom and dad can't stand each other. There's no love. This is why I say, if you are in a marriage and mom and dad are miserable, and they don't, they're obviously not in love at all, and they're simply acting as roommates, or worse, it's a bad situation for the kids. The kids are going to observe this, and will end up in bad situations like this. Mark my words. I know families like this since dead. I see the toxic situation go from one generation after the other, no joke. And I'm sure a lot of you guys watching, if you pay attention to your families or friends or whatever, you might see the same situations too. That's why it's always best to, for the man or woman, depending on the situation, just simply, in a loving way, end the marriage and start over so they can be happy and the kids can see the parents being happy, at least separated, and maybe they won't be screwed up too. On the bright side, I decided to try to make the best of it. I have lost weight, and I dress nicer despite working from home due to COVID-19. I have embraced my hobbies and interests. It has helped my mental state, and I have some more self-confidence. Well, good for you, that's awesome. Always good to be working on your body, working on your health, improving yourself, sticking to your hobbies. And notice that it's improved your mental state and improved your self-confidence. So, I always tell you guys, work out, exercise, eat well. You're going to feel better. You're going to feel better. You're going to look better, and because you look better, you're going to feel better and act better. Your confidence is going to go up. Embrace your hobbies and interests because it's something you enjoy. He says, "What are the lessons I learned by hard experience that young men could apply?" and we got a bunch here. Number 1. The age of ladies and gentlemen has been dead for decades. One needs to be absolutely ruthless with women in this area. One is better off assuming the worst. I assumed the best, and I'm paying a lifelong price for that mistake. No, it is not. You're not in a prison sentence. You yourself gave you your own prison sentence, sir, okay? Let's be honest here, okay? You weren't sentenced by a judge to be stuck in this marriage. You could have walked away at any time, all right? But I'm going to get to that later on, what you can do to help your situation. And as for obviously being tough, yeah, you gotta be tough, okay? But there's a difference between being strong and taking charge, and being, let's just say, ruthless, as you say, in a cruel way. I don't promote being cruel, but I will say this. You got to stand up for yourself and be a man, okay? Women do not respect guys that are doormats, okay? Trust me. And you, my friend, have been a doormat. Your whole life. You were raised to be a doormat by your mom, okay? It is what it is. I don't want you to go hating on your mom because, obviously she was your mom. But let's be honest, look what happened, okay? But it was on you, but it doesn't have to be that way forever. But anyhow, you have to lay down the law with women. It is what it is. Number 2. Constant examination is needed in this area. One needs to be very aware of yourself and whatever woman you have in your life. Do not ignore the red flags. Yes, I tell you all the time, pay attention to the red flags, even the little small ones, because those little red flags can turn into major problems. You always got to be observant. You always got to see what's going on around you. Number 3. One might be better off being celibate. I disagree. I'd rather have been a 40-year-old virgin than the situation I'm in. There was a saying about syphilis. One night with Venus, a lifetime with Mercury. The Mercury referred to the use of Mercury as a treatment. I would replace that with one night with Venus, a lifetime with Medusa. Well, as funny as that is, that's again on you, and it's on the guys that make the decision to be with someone like that, okay? Now, if some guys want to be celibate for whatever reason, that's their business. But I would not say basically, either you're going to be with a Medusa or a crazy harpy, or be alone and be celibate. No, like I said, you can have some good women out there, but you got to be a man. You got to stand up for yourself and lay down the law. And this guy, unfortunately, again, wasn't raised to do that. He had no examples of this. And he was always fearful of being alone, so it was better to have somebody. This was his idea, his mentality back then. Better to be with somebody than be alone, right? No, number 4, patience. I got married at 30 years old. Now I understand I was about to start climbing up the sexual market value. What he's referring to is that guys really start getting into their prime in their 30s, and especially 40s. So in his 20s, he was the low man on the totem pole, but by 30 years old, obviously, he was probably into his career. Probably most guys would be gaining some confidence and an understanding of things, but he cashed in his chips right when his prime was about to begin. But even if he stayed single, but because he'd been so brainwashed because of his upbringing with no strong man to set an example, or even just an average man to set an example, it probably wouldn't have mattered. Number 5, replace pining for women with working on yourself. Absolutely. Work on your career. Embrace your hobbies and interests with a passion. If you are going to not place finding a woman at the center of your existence, you will need something to replace that with. No guy should put a woman as the center of their existence. No guy should make the woman his purpose. A guy should make his goals and ambitions in life his purpose, okay? And guess what's going to happen, guys? If you chase after your ambitions and your goals and making yourself better, making you the best you can be, you're going to be at the best, you're going to be great. You're going to be feeling great all the time. You're going to have all these achievements, and guess what's going to happen? The women, if this is what you want, are going to be chasing after you. Isn't that interesting, okay? Because you're going to be a high-status man, a high-value guy. Because I said before in the videos, most guys don't do anything with their lives. Most guys and women are mediocre. You look around, most people are living boring, mediocre lives. And the sad thing is, I don't care who you are, everybody has the ability to improve themselves and do better than what they are in their current situation. But the reality is, most people in this world are scared shitless of trying, okay? They're afraid of failure. They're afraid of embarrassing themselves. They're afraid of looking bad and they won't do anything. And they'll settle for these mediocre existences. Mediocre jobs, mediocre income, mediocre body, mediocre friends, mediocre relationships. It goes on. And the worst are the ones that whine and complain about it, that they don't make enough money or have good friends or good relationships, and yet aren't willing to do anything about it. Guys, you're the masters of your own destiny. You can improve your lives. Make it happen. And by the way, for those of you that do want to date, have relationships, the women will be chasing after you. But if you go around making women your purpose, your sole reason for getting up in the morning is to chase after women, guess what? You're not going to get what you want. If relationships and all that is your purpose, it's not going to end well. This guy's right about that. Number 6, if you are not in the top 20% of men, do not hate yourself. Understand that it is the distorted world we live in. It's not your fault, and there's nothing wrong with you as a man. There's nothing wrong with you as a man if you're not in the top 20% or the top 10% or 5% or 1%. But love yourself no matter what, but you can always do better. Like I just went on this rant about a minute ago, you could always do things to improve your life, okay? Never forget that, guys. It doesn't make a difference if you're 20 years old or you're in your early 50s like this guy. Number 7, consume content like strong, successful male, alpha talk, as reinforcement against the lies society is telling us. I couldn't agree more. Watch my videos, and when you've done watching my videos, watch other videos from other great channels out there. There's plenty of channels out there. Read good books out there about obviously becoming a better man and improving yourself and things like that, guys. You should always be learning. You should always be working on yourself. You don't reach a certain point and say, well, I've done all I had to do. Now I can just sit on my ass and do nothing the rest of my life. No, I want to hear you. I want you guys to be improving yourselves now until the day you die, literally. When you are an old man and you're 90 years old and you can't remember what you had for breakfast, I want you doing something to improve yourself, okay? That will give your life more meaning. Notice a lot of guys, when they retire, they get really bored really quick. Not all, but a lot, because there's nothing new. There's nothing new to work for, nothing to look forward to, because they just kind of sit around, and it's sad. Always be improving yourself, no matter what. Number 8, if one needs intimacy, there is no shame in using pros. Having S-word relations with a woman is too fraught with minefields and danger. One is better off just using a pro. Phone sex, and like what he's saying, you pay a pro, so she will leave. It's all sorts of women are entering the sex work. I do not see any reason for not using the opportunity being offered. Hey, if you want to do that, do that. Just be safe. However, again, back to the whole thing. This is this guy's view. This is his 50 years on this planet's view on things. You can still get some great women out there, but you have to obviously look around, use a lot of good screening, and of course, work on yourself to be the type of guy that will attract that type of good woman, okay? All right. So that's the end of his thing. But now here's the problem. I want to help him out. So, my friend, I agree your life has sucked in that area, okay? I'm sure you have fulfilling things in your life, like your good job, that you have a PhD. That's awesome. Good for you, man. Not every guy walking around has a PhD or is in the top 10% of earnings for making that living, okay? You're 50, your early 50s, 52, 53. I guess about 10 years older than me. Life isn't over. You have the ability to change things. So given the situation, given your story, obviously, it sounds like there never really was any love between you and your wife. I'm going to guess you probably do not hook up at all, if not hardly ever. So, this situation, man, do you really want to spend the rest of your life like this? You are not in a prison sentence. A judge didn't sentence you to be with her in this bad situation the rest of your life, okay? So, given the situation, I highly recommend that you do a little soul searching after you watch this video, and I would definitely think about ending your marriage, okay? I would speak to an attorney and keep it quiet and find out your options, because obviously, depending on where you live, it could be different depending on the state. Find out your options, and then find out the worst case scenario in terms of like what you may pay for alimony and things like that, how much you could lose. Because at the end of the day, you're miserable, and you've been miserable, and you should not be miserable any longer than you have to, okay? You can do this. And let's just say, for argument's sake, that literally, she gets the house, the overpriced house that you did all the renovations for. She gets the house, the car, half your money, all that stuff. And you got to pay alimony for, you've been married 20 years, so Lord knows how long you're going to have to pay alimony. It could be the rest of your life, who the hell knows? But at the end of the day, you get out and you're free. You get a chance to start over. Even if it means for a while you got to live in some small tiny apartment or a studio apartment for a while you get things together, at least you're on your own, okay? And yes, it's going to feel unbelievably crazy and strange, and you're going to think about wanting to go back because something is better than nothing, than being alone. No. You can start over, okay? You can work on yourself, and that wealth you may have lost in the divorce, you can get it back. You're in the top 10% earning, you're a PhD. You can rebuild that wealth. Now, maybe your concern is your kids, because you said your daughters are deeply unhappy and there's other issues there. I'd make it abundantly clear and let them know how much you love them and how much you'll be there for them. But you have to do this for yourself. You've been the martyr for 20-some years. It is time you start doing what's best for you, okay? And so what if your wife gets pissed off? So what if she threatens to take you to the cleaners in the divorce process? Life goes on. How many guys watching this channel have been divorced, and even though they were taken to the cleaners and raked over the coals, they survived, and they're so much happier on their own? And I encourage all guys who have been through that situation to please comment below to let this guy know that he will end up okay. So, that's what I think you should do. And you can start your life over. And in the meantime, be busy at the gym, working out, taking care of your body, pursue your hobbies and interests, okay? And you'll get a second chance. But stop being you this moment on. Stop being the pleaser, okay? Because I don't want you to say you get out of this marriage and go make the same mistakes again. If you meet some girl in a few years, once you calm down emotionally after the whole divorce, because it will be very hard, don't make the same mistakes again. Be strong. Be the man that you were born to be. Be the man that man is in there, man. It is deep down in your soul, just waiting to come out, and you can do this. Life is not over in your 50s, believe me. I know guys in their 50s, and believe me, they take care of themselves, and they have the time of their lives. You can too. So do not give up, and I would love to hear about you down the road to see how things are going. Believe me, there's plenty of guys. They've been in a situation like yours and worse, and they took action, got out of a bad situation, and they were so much happier. Just imagine that, man. Every day, getting through every day is going to be your big challenge. You'll get there, I assure you. So, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below, let me know what you think about this. Guys, please let this guy know it's going to be all right. Give him some tips. Give him some advice, help him on his journey, and be sure to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.